welcome to this week's episode of The Payload, Berry Grenade's weekly show on everything Overwatch. Now, if you thought last week was a bumper show, you better buckle up for this one because we have got a lot to cover. Let's kick things off with a look at Moira, the latest hero to join the Overwatch roster. Obviously, it looks like Jeff was setting everyone up for a surprise when he said Hero 26 wouldn't be coming anytime soon, since the villainous scientist was one of the biggest announcements at BlizzCon. So, on to her abilities. First up, we have Biotic Grasp, which is one of two basic healing abilities. On left click, Moira can use Biotic Energy to heal allies in front of her, with a long range weapon on right click that saps enemies' health to heal Moira and recharge her Biotic Energy. The heal restores about 45 HP per second, and since it also heals over time as well as affecting multiple targets, it makes it the ideal choice for a hectic team fight. However, it doesn't latch on to heroes, so you'll need to track whoever you're trying to heal if they need more than just a top up. Her second ability sees her launch a rebounding Biotic Sphere, which latches onto the nearest hero and either heals teammates or deals damage to enemies, again by using either left or right click while pressing E. After doing either 300 healing or 200 damage, the orb will disappear and you'll have a 10-second cooldown before you can cast it again. Moira is also able to teleport short distances using her Fade ability, which, as you can see, looks kind of like a cross between Reaper's Wraith form and Shadow Step. Lasting about a second, Fade makes her invisible and invulnerable, with a 6-second cooldown only beginning once she reappears. Of course, you'll want to watch where you're teleporting, a lesson I learned shortly after fading directly into the Ilios pit. Finally, Moira's ultimate is called Convalescence, and sees the Talon scientist fire out a huge beam that both heals and damages, depending on your team. From what we've played so far though, it's much more useful for mass healing during a brawl than doing really significant damage. The Goku style ult lasts around 10 seconds and Moira can also move faster while she's casting it. As you can see, Moira is a pretty unique character and much more aggressive than healers we've seen before. Hopefully this should make her a more attractive choice for those times when nobody on your team wants to go healer. And yes, Hanzo mains, I'm talking to you. Of course, with only 200 health, she's pretty squishy, and the fact that she needs to deal damage to charge up her healing ability means you'll sometimes have to venture into a fight you'd otherwise sit out. In my experience, she's best paired with a second healer, allowing you to make the most of her damage abilities without leaving your teammates to die. Overall, she feels really fun, and who could resist her utterly bonkers David Bowie skin? BlizzCon also saw the announcement of a new theme park based on the games of Blizzard, albeit one you can only visit inside Overwatch. Half Assault and half Escort, Blizzard World is a brand new hybrid map set to hit the game in 2018. Of course, it makes sense that Blizzard would exist inside the Overwatch universe, given that D.Va is a former pro StarCraft 2 player, and the new map is packed full of references to the gaming giant. Our favourite has to be this Lost Vikings sign, which references both the early Blizzard title and, for some reason, Vincent Vega. However, a celebration of all things Blizzard wouldn't be complete without new skins to match, and the Overwatch team were more than happy to oblige. At the What's Next for Overwatch BlizzCon panel, the game's developers announced a new set of skins inspired by Blizzard's most famous titles. First up, two StarCraft-inspired skins see Orisa disguised as an immortal Protoss, and Widowmaker rocking a distinct Mercy vibe in a Nova skin. Roadhog's new skin is, very appropriately, fellow Hook owner the Butcher from Diablo, and there's also a Diablo-themed skin for Zarya, who takes on the role of Barbarian Sonya. Of course, there was only ever really one choice for Torbjorn, who appears as Magni Bronzebeard, World of Warcraft's Dwarven King. He's joined in the WoW universe by Doomfist as Blackhand the Destroyer. There were also two new skins from the Overwatch universe, specifically the animated shorts Rise and Shine and Honor and Glory. The first, from May's Eco Point Adventures, sees her don an adorable winter outfit, complete with woolly pom-poms. And Reinhardt's skin, as revealed in his backstory video, shows the hero as his younger self, with long glossy hair that I'm actually pretty jealous of. And while that's all we've been shown so far, a tweet from the Overwatch team assured fans that there will be new skins, emotes, highlight intros and more for all 26 heroes. Now, one of the biggest highlights of BlizzCon was, of course, the finale of the Overwatch World Cup. And while the eventual champions South Korea were always the favourites to win, it ended up being a much closer call than anyone expected, with the team taking a surprise stumble against Canada in the final. After winning the first 3 maps, Oasis, Kings Row and Hanamura, South Korea were eventually bested in Junkertown, with Canada finally able to take their first point. From there, the game moved on to Numbani, with a newly confident Canada managing to push the payload to the final checkpoint using a surprisingly effective tourbillon play. But since South Korea also completed the map, the game was forced into overtime. And with 3 minutes left on the clock for South Korea and just 1 for Canada, it wasn't much of a surprise that South Korea were able to push the payload past Canada's marker, claiming their second Overwatch World Cup win. Safe to say there was some pretty standout play from the South Korean team, with Flower's Widowmaker picking off the opposition with terrifying precision. In addition, Jae Hong showed exactly why he's considered the best Overwatch player in the world, defying the current meta to play Ana with devastating effect. Of course, if you're feeling all fired up from the World Cup, don't worry. It's less than a month until the Overwatch League kicks off with a series of exhibition matches. We've now had all the team announcements, with the Florida Mayhem and Los Angeles Gladiators as the last 2 reveals before BlizzCon. We've also had the full range of in-game uniforms announced, which each team's heroes will wear during matches to help spectators tell which team they're watching. And as we saw in the World Cup, a team's colour scheme will now extend to hero and weapon animations, making it much easier to understand exactly whose Widowmaker just devastatingly sniped whose Mercy, for example. We also got a lot more info on how the Overwatch League will actually play out. For starters, the 12 teams will be split into 2 divisions, Atlantic and Pacific. The Atlantic Division will feature Boston Uprising, Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws, London Spitfire, New York Excelsior and the Philadelphia Fusion, while the Pacific Division is Dallas Fuel, Los Angeles Gladiators, Los Angeles Valiant, San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons. The competition will then be broken down even further into 4 stages, each lasting 5 weeks. During these stages, each team will play 2 matches a week, with all the games taking place between Wednesday and Sunday, depending on your time zone. At the end of each stage, the best performing teams will enter playoffs, with each stage winner taking home $125,000. That's followed by a 10-day break before the next stage begins. At the end of all 4 stages, the top team from each division automatically goes into postseason and gets a bye week. Then the next 4 teams with the best score join them, regardless of which division they played in. Postseason will then begin in earnest, with championship playoffs and a grand final to decide the very first winner of the Overwatch League, and $1 million. Of course, it won't be long until we get our first look at the teams in action, with pre-season matches starting on December 6th. And finally, our favourite panel at BlizzCon had to be a look through the archives, which revealed early hero ideas for Overwatch. One in particular caught our eye, so if you're watching Jeff, my vote's with Mama Hong for Hero 27. Well, that's just about all we've got time for. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you next week.